You know, how we talk about war, it says so much about how it's actually fought. Today we're going to look at two completely different eras of conflict. But we're not going to do it through battles or grand strategies. Nope. We're going to do it by looking at the words, from the gritty, down and dirty slang of the jungle to the super high-tech specs you'd find in a modern weapons catalog. Let's see what these words can really tell us.
And that really gets to the heart of what we're talking about today. We're going to dig into how the very vocabulary of war has shifted, how it's gone from describing a lived, raw, human experience to describing a highly engineered, technical product. The whole story, it's right there in the words.
And boom. This right here shows you that divide perfectly. On the left, you've got the word Boonies, a term literally born from the experience of being in the mud, in the jungles, far away from anything remotely civilized. And on the right, a piece of precision-engineered hardware. One is language that grew from the ground up, the other is language handed down from a design lab.
Okay, so let's start with that first world. We're jumping back to the Vietnam War to really get a feel for the unique and, let's be honest, incredibly raw language that soldiers created just to make sense of their day-to-day reality. Just take that word Boonies. Think about it. That's not just a location on a map. That word carries the feeling of the experience. You can almost feel the mud, the humidity, the isolation. It's a word that tells an entire story in just 2 syllables.
And Boonies is just the tip of the iceberg, right? This was a whole language, a shared vocabulary built from pure experience. It's what defined life for the infantryman, the boonie rat, on the ground.
Or how about a term like cherry? It just perfectly sums up what it's like to be the new guy. You're untested, you're green, and you're painfully aware of just how little you know. It's a word that speaks volumes about the human side of all this.
And you can see how the language has soaked up everything from its surroundings. Beaucoup is a fantastic example. It's a piece of French, from the old colonial power that got twisted and adopted into soldier speak. It just grounds you right in that specific time and place.
In this language, it absolutely does not pull any punches. A term like clusterfuck, that's the rawest after-action report you could ever get. It's blunt, it's darkly funny, and it's brutally honest about what happens when a plan just completely falls apart.
What's also fascinating is how they talked about the enemy. They weren't using some formal military designation. It was Charlie, or Chuck. It made the enemy a familiar, personal, and constant presence, not just some abstract force.
Okay, so that's how they talked about the experience. But what about the technology? How did they describe their tools? Well, the tools of the trade were seen through that exact same lens of direct sensory experience.
Now pay close attention here because this is really interesting. Look how the AK-47 is defined. It's not about its rate of fire, its caliber, its weight. For the soldier on the ground, the single most important defining characteristic was its sound, that explosive popping sound. That is a definition born from pure survival, learning to identify a threat by ear.
Okay, now freeze that thought. We go from an explosive popping sound to this. Today, the goal isn't just to make a sound, it's to engineer its complete absence. And we're not just calling it a silencer. No, it's a signature reduction capability. The language itself has made this incredible leap from the purely sensory to the deeply technical.
And that, right there, drops us squarely into the modern era. And we're going to use the Barrett M107A1 as our main example. This is where the language of war becomes the language of engineering.
And right out of the gate, you can just feel the difference. Engineered for action. This isn't some slang that grew organically out of the mud. This is a corporate tagline. It's deliberate, it's powerful, and you can bet it was created by a marketing department.
So now, we're not just looking at a tool anymore. We're looking at a product, something that has been meticulously re-engineered, and it's described with the language of precision, of material science, and of measurable improvements.
Just listen to that vocabulary. Research and development, military end users. That's not the battlefield talking, that's the boardroom. The whole process sounds like how you develop a new iPhone. A cycle of R&D and, user feedback.
And all the improvements, they're about cold, hard data. It's not about how it feels in your hands. It's about how it measures on a spreadsheet. 4 pounds lighter. That's not a feeling, that's a spec.
And this is what you get. This is the new language. Instead of a story about a sound, you get a spec sheet, precise measurements, weights, capacities, down to the millimeter. The weapon's entire identity is right here in this clean, orderly table.
The words themselves have totally changed.
We're talking about electroless nickel plating and anti-corrosive coatings. I mean, these are terms straight out of an engineering textbook. It shows you the focus is now on this thing as a piece of incredibly advanced, manufactured technology.
And then you have the final step, branding. The rifle gets elevated. It's not just a tool, not just a product, it's an American icon. That's the language of marketing, creating a whole cultural identity for a piece of hardware.
Okay, so let's pull these two very different threads together. What we've seen is a clear evolution in how the story of war is told, and it's perfectly captured in this shift from simple slang to complex specs.
I mean, this slide just says it all, doesn't it? Look at the comparison. On the left, you have words that describe a human feeling, being lost in the jungle, being new and scared, being in total chaos. On the right, you have phrases that describe a technical object, its features, its capabilities, its components. The focus is completely shifted from the person to the product.
And that kind of leaves us with this one big question, doesn't it? There's no doubt that the technology is more advanced. It's incredible. But as the language of war gets cleaner, more technical, more like a product catalog, you just have to wonder, what happens to our understanding of the human experience at the very heart of it all? What part of the real story gets lost in translation?